أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين خالق السماوات والأرض إلها واحدا أحدا صمدا لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين رحمة للعالمين سيدنا وسيد الثقلين إمامنا وإمام القبلتين مولانا ومولى الكونين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين، ورحمة الله على محبيهم ولعنة الله على أعدائهم وقاتليهم وغاصب حقوق حقهم ومنكر فضائلهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: إن الحسين مصباح الهدى وسفينة النجاة. صلوات الله. My respected sisters and brothers, my youngsters, my elders, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Azam Allahu ujurana wa ujurukum min musabina bil Husayn alayhi salam. I extend my condolences to the Imam of the time, Imam al-Hujjah, to the household of the Prophet, to all of you, to your families, to the samawati wal ard, to the malaika and the jannat, and all those who have felt the loss and the tragedy of Arbaeen of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Just echoing the announcement, and I thought Sayyid Anwar Sahib was going to say a few words as well. So if your permission is there, I also want to take a moment to appreciate, and although it is only my second time in this center at this in this 1442 Muharram, Hijri Muharram, I also want to appreciate the volunteers, Sayyid Rada, and all of you who have taken part. And I also want to mention one thing that perhaps has not been said in these 2 nights. I have not heard it. Perhaps it was said before. But what I have also appreciated in your community here at the Al-MAHDI Al-Muntadhar Center in London is the fact that the volunteers have come from many diverse backgrounds. It is not just one community that has been serving, and I think that this shows your leadership and your dedication of the Mu'mineen who are serving not only on the executive and the board of directors, but all those who are cooperating and coordinating and working to make. It's never easy to first of all, volunteer. It's never easy. But one of the important things about volunteering, which I've learned in my 30 plus years of working with communities, is that in order for the volunteers to do their job, the leadership needs to be there as well. And if there's effective and good leadership, then the volunteers know what they want to do. Because everybody wants to work and do something, but if there's no guidance and there's no guidelines, then of course everybody will be doing their own thing, and there will be a lot of, they say, too many cooks spoil the broth. But at the same time, you need enough cooks and servers to make sure that the broth is, inshallah, done and served properly. And one of the things that we see in the message of Abu Abdullah is that the hearts themselves come forward. And whether it is somebody who is giving the talk, or somebody who is serving, somebody who's at the door taking the registration and making sure that those protocols that Sayyid was talking about are followed or not, these are all important aspects, and these all are the bricks that make the building of Azadari. And these are all, every one of them is important. Whether it's somebody who is vacuuming, whether it's somebody who's wiping the chairs, whether it is somebody who is at the desk, at every point, we must make sure that everyone, inshallah, is acknowledged, and the people who are the participants are also requested to appreciate their services. This is something that is really important. That if I cannot do something, at least appreciate and acknowledge those who are doing something. This is extremely important. It is very easy to sit back and throw stones. It is very easy to condemn, criticize, and not think that everything is right. I remember some of my friends used to say that the only people, and they were talking about not only in the Middle East and in Africa and other places, that the only people who know how to run the whole country are the taxi drivers and the barbers. Because when you go into a taxi and the taxi driver knows exactly what's wrong in the country, he knows how to fix all the problems, and so does the barber who is cutting my hair and telling me that this is wrong, that is wrong, this is needs to be improved, the government should do this, the government should do that. And so it's easy to suggest, to say, to speak, but to actually do the work is a whole different ball game. And so may Allah reward each and every one of you for serving the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and for giving me a chance to come and share a few words in these two important lectures, in these two important days and nights of remembrance of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salatu wasalam. May Allah give you a great ajr and salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Yesterday we were taking a look at the statement of Imam Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, whereby the Imam says, Inna al-hayati aqidatu wal jihad, that life is nothing but faith and struggle. And the Imam, being the one who was designated by the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the authority of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, is the one who's conveying this. And one of the things that we have to keep in mind, and as part of the Aqidah, as part of our faith, is to remember that the obedience to the Imam is at the pinnacle of our responsibility when the Imam is in front of us, or when the Imam is in occultation, as is the case now. The Imam is to be obeyed whether they are in front of us, zahiran, apparently, or whether the Imam is in occultation as per the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from 260 Hijri or 329 when Ghaibat Kubra took place. So with the obedience to the Imam is something that is not negotiable, you can say. And it's so beautiful to see in the history of Islam that we find the Imams, when people didn't understand whether it was intentional or unintentional, they didn't appreciate who was the Imam, the maqam of the Imam, the status of the Imam, the position of the Imam. In one of the battles where the Imam was fighting, was when the battles when Amirul Mu'mineen was fighting, one of the early battles at the time of the Holy Prophet's life as well. The enemy approaches the Imam as they are fighting and all that, and the enemy says to the Imam, the opposing side says to the Imam, this man, that you are only winning and you're only able to be successful because you've got the Zulfiqar. You've got the Zulfiqar that has come from the heavens, and as a result of that Zulfiqar, you are able to win. So it's not anything great. Imam says, why don't you take the Zulfiqar and I will take your sword and I will fight with it. When the Imam puts the Zulfiqar down, the man goes to try and pick it up, he cannot pick it up. He uses both of his hands, he cannot pick it up. He uses and musters all the strength he can to try and pick up Zulfiqar so he can fight against Ali ibn Abi Talib. Mawla is looking at him and smiling. He says, you asked for the Zulfiqar, you do not ask for the hand of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Zulfiqar talab kiya, lekin Ali ka haath nahi mila. So there is a certain status in the Imam that needs to be appreciated and understood, not just what the physical tools that are around the Imam. The Imam is the Imam. No, one of the things that I remind my students in the madaris and all, we don't believe in the wilayat of Imam Ali because we are against somebody else. It's not a competition that because that person is there, now we want to put Amirul Mu'mineen na'udhu billah in front. The Imam himself had given a very beautiful statement. He says, don't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you want Jannah. This is the business, this is the ibadat, this is the worship of businessmen. I'll give you 2 rakat namaz, ya Allah, you give me Jannah. I'll give you this, you give me that. This is the businessman's transaction. Don't worship Allah because you fear Jahannam, because you fear the fire of hell. This is the worship of slaves. He says, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He deserves to be worshipped. The Imam made it very clear. Now I will apply that same formula. We are not obeying Amirul Mu'mineen. We are not loving Imam Ali. We are not loving the Aimma because somebody else is there or somebody else we are against. We are remembering and obeying Imam Ali because he deserves to be obeyed. He is worthy of obedience. That is why. Not because you see what history did was when there was, Amirul Mu'mineen was called the hand of Allah, Yadullah, the Lisanullah, Ainullah. So what did they do? They brought somebody else, they called him Saifullah. They called somebody else, he was the Fatih Sham, they called him the victory, Fatahullah. And then all these titles came because they were conflicting with Ali ibn Abi Talib. They wanted to bring their own people forward so that the importance of Ali alayhi salam would diminish. And yet till today the remembrance of Ali ibn Abi Talib is in every corner of the world that we can go to. And the remembrance of these others has almost been annihilated. One salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. This is one of the ijaz of Imamah. This is one of the miracles of the Imamah, the institution of Imamah itself. It's something that many have written about, not really appreciated and understood. Many have talked about it, had discussions on it, about it. That what is the imamat? And then, I made a promise to you yesterday night, so I'm going to go and fulfill that. But this is just like the preamble that I'm unfolding as we go into our discussion. Okay. So the writings and all of the philosophers and thinkers and who said that what is imamat? Let us go back to the Quranic injunction, because there's again debates, discussions and arguments as well. That you Shia, you followers of the Imams, you 12ers, you Ithna Asharis, you've got a problem. What's the problem? He says you sometimes put the Imams above the Prophets. La ilaha illallah. Do we do that? Well, let's see what the Quran Majid says. Because we talk about the Quran. This is something nobody will argue on. Hazrat Nabi Allah Ibrahim alayhi salam, who is called the father of monotheism. The Jewish community, the Christian community, the Muslim community, all of those who are muwahhids, believers in one, they go back to Nabi Allah Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, and he is regarded as the patriarch of monotheism, the oneness, the religions that believe in the oneness of God. So there's no argument there. Hazrat Ibrahim was known as Khalilullah, Sayyidina, the friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, what a status he has. The friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The friend of Allah, the Khalil of Allah ta'ala. He would be having conversations, and even he was so important. One of the Ulul Azam prophets. He was the prophet who was given, Ismail and Ishaq at a very late age in his life. Allah ta'ala gave him numerous miracles to prove that his status is so great. So great. And he went through so many tests and imtihanat, so many tribulations. And after all those tribulations were passed, including the sacrifice or the supposed sacrifice of Nabi Allah Ismail alayhi salam, after all that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلْنَاكَ لِلنَّاسَ إِمَامًا. After going through all those tests, imamat is not something that's inherited, necessarily just bestowed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees the qualities in somebody, and they have to go through various tests, whether it is in this physical world or in a world that is above and beyond the physical world. Then Allah ta'ala says, okay, you've passed everything. We give you your certification. Your marks have been acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَجَعَلْنَاكَ لِلنَّاسَ إِمَامًا. Now we have made you a imam. وَلَكِنْ لِلنَّاسَ إِمَامًا. किनके लिए इमाम है? किसके लिए इमाम है? For whom is he the imam? لِلنَّاسَ إِمَامًا. You are an imam for mankind. MashaAllah. How many? 7 billion people today? According to John Hopkins and many of the statistics and figures, 7,800,000,000, give or take, approximately in the world today. Maybe at that time, maybe 1/10 of that. Maybe 1/5 of that, doesn't matter. Millions of people. Linnasa imama. My question is that, Ya Allah, Hazrat Ibrahim was in Babylon, in this area that would have been what we would call the Greater Arabian Peninsula. And yet, Allah Ta'ala is saying that His imamat reaches to all of mankind. So the entire world, the known world at the time, He is an imam. Even though He was physically stationed just there. Now when it came to the Holy Prophet of Islam, Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala used a separate set of words. He says, O Muhammad, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً. O Muhammad, you are a mercy, not linnasa, not for humanity, not for the insan, not for this earth. For the entire alameen, you are a rahmah. And if Muhammad is the rahmah of alameen, then Imam is the Imam of the alameen as well. Because it was Muhammad Rasulullah that appointed Aliyun Waliullah as the Imam, not from anybody else. The Quran never said that this is linnasa rahmatan lil alam. No. Lil alameen. Yani wherever Allah's alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wherever His rabbaniyat reaches, whether it is in this world, whether it is in Mars, whether it is this solar system, whether it is this Milky Way galaxy, or whether it is in the far reaches of the universe, which the human being has not even been able to comprehend or grasp, that is where the imamat of Ali ibn Abi Talib reaches as well. That is where the Risalat of Rasulullah reaches. Not limited to this physical world. Oh Ibrahim, we love you, we care about you, we have the greatest of respect. If anybody does any disrespect to Ibrahim, he is not a Muslim. But you are linnasa imama, your imamat. So now, are we are we elevating the imamat? Or is the Quran Majid saying what the status of the imam is? After all these tests, then you reach imamat. It's not, that's what people say. That, well, then are you saying that Rasulullah was not? Of course, Rasulullah was an imam. He was Sayyidul Anbiya wal Mursaleen. He was the great. He was an imam as well. We don't mention him as the list of the 12 imams, but amongst the 14 ma'asumin, the Holy Prophet is there. So the Prophet's status is the highest. He is khayre khalqihi, the greatest of Allah's creation. So this is one thing we want to do in our preamble, remind us that this is the role, responsibility, and this is the status of imam. So when the imam says something, it needs to be understood and followed and obeyed. Very careful. That's why when those who were close to the imams, they obeyed unquestioningly. A man comes to, when we are mentioning Muharram, and we're remembering Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, and we see what Banu Umayyah had done. Allahu Akbar. We had seen the atrocities committed by Banu Umayyah. And so when the Banu Umayyah were falling and the Banu Abbas were supposedly taking the revenge, they were saying that we want to take revenge, intaqam, we want to take revenge on what had happened in Karbala. And some people saw through this because Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was approached, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. Imam Sadiq was approached by one of these people. He said that, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, you'll support us, right? One of these Banu Abbas came, you'll support us. And we want to take in revenge, and we want to make sure that we right the wrongs that had happened. And Imam's vision was such, Imam says, yes, we want Banu Umayyah out, but we don't want you Banu Abbas in. The Imam had a vision. If you look at it, and if I look at myself, and somebody came to me and said with this offer that, we'll help you, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll take revenge on what happened to your grandfather Hussein alayhi salam, we'll do that, I might jump. I would jump and say, yeah, please, give me a hand, help me out, right? Ye to mera maqam hai. This is my mahdudiyat, this is my limitations. I don't see the future. I don't see the vision ahead. So I'll say, yeah, let's go for it. But Imam's vision was very far-reaching. This is what Imam is. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. And the Imam says, yes, we want Banu Umayyah, but we don't want you in. And this policy, I remember speaking to some of my Iraqi friends as well. When the Americans were going in and they were about to, knock off Saddam, alayhi la'an. And they were saying that a lot of my friends were saying, anybody but Saddam, anybody but Saddam. And I would remind them, I said, remember what Imam Sadiq said. Don't think that one will be better than the other. They have all come for their own motives. And as history unfolded, we saw the same thing we saw in the time of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. The same thing we saw. Were they any better? Yes, Saddam is out, alhamdulillah. But what was the situation? It was Banu Umayyah being replaced by Banu Abbas. This is what we saw. It's a reality. Okay, hopefully now, inshallah, things will change when the authority comes into the hands of the people themselves. Then, inshallah, they will determine their own destiny. One salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. So the imamat is something that is critical, because when a man comes to Imam Sadiq, a different man from Khorasan, from what is today Iran, he comes to the Imam. He says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, he's showing his bravery, he's keeping his sword. He says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, now it's time that you take the authority in your hands. You take the authority and you now rise. I have got 10,000 people ready to support you. We will overthrow this Banu Umayyah. 10,000 people have got their swords ready and they'll support you. Imam is listening. Imam doesn't say anything right now. Sometimes the Imam's words and actions speak louder than their words. The Imam tells his servant, light the tanur. Turn on the oven, basically. They didn't have ovens that we can press these buttons and the oven goes on. They had to light the tanur and all that. After the tanur was reaching its pinnacle, it was completely hot, where they would do their baking, their cooking, their pita, their khubz and everything. Because Imam tells the man, okay, now get into this fire. Get into this oven. The man says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, I came here to help you. I have a wife, I'm summarizing, I'm paraphrasing. I have a wife and kids. Bibi bache wahan pe intezar kare. Kya jawab denge isko? What will we tell them? I'm sorry, please forgive me. Imam says it. Then they go back and sit down. As they sit down, a knock comes on the Imam's door. One of the very well-known companions, Harun al-Makki, comes in. Imam says, Harun, can you get into the tandoor? We have just lit it and it's lit. Well, can you get into the tandoor? The biographers and the historians mention that Harun al-Makki did not even remove his sandals. When the Imam told him get into the tandoor, he came inside with the sandals, went into the tandoor, and the servant covers the tandoor. The Imam now goes back to that Khorasani and they're having a conversation. The Khorasani is looking, he's very uncomfortable. Ma hada, what has happened? Chikar koni, kya ho gaya hai? His mind is over there and he's talking to the Imam. His mind is over there, he's talking to the Imam. After a while, the Imam goes there to the tandoor with this Khorasani and he lifts up the lid of the tandoor, and what does he see? Harun al-Makki is sitting down with the fire all around him and he's reciting Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He's reciting the praise of ala Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. Ma salli ala Muhammad. Jazakallah khair. Imam then asks his Khorasani, out of that 10,000 that you just told me about, how many are like this? He says, not one, Mawla. We wonder, why is Imam not coming? Why is Imam Sahib al-Amr delayed? Why is he not coming? Mawla, you only need 313, 313 ki zaruri hai. And I remember, a dear colleague of mine, he mentioned one thing. He says, I'll just say it in Urdu and then I'll translate it, inshallah. Mawla ko 313 Musalman nahi chahiye, 313 Salman chahiye. The Imam doesn't need 313 Muslims. He needs 313 like Salman, like Abu Dhar, like Miqdad. Not like Mr. So-and-so and so-and-so. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Are we ready to listen to the Imam no matter what? Because there are certain things the Imam will tell us when he returns that may not be comfortable to us, that may not be palatable to us. It will not, because you see, one of the things that we saw in the history of Islam is that the same way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at the time before his demise and on numerous occasions, made sure that the chair will not be empty by appointing, by announcing, by reminding the people that Ali ibn Abi Talib is the wali, the wasi wa khalifata min ba'di, that he is the khalifa after me. The chair will not be left empty for even one moment. The same way when Allah Ta'ala had taken Imam Sahib al-Amr into ghaiba, into the occultation, the Imam said that I am also leaving the chair occupied by the ulama, who will be the mujtahideen, who will be the ba'amal ulama. Those who are acting, not just speaking. Not just speaking. Yesterday I mentioned there's no shortage of false imams, false prophets, false gods, na'udhu billah, and false scholars as well. And the Imam himself in Bihar al-Anwar has been quoted as saying, in fact, this was a hadith that was written in, if any of you have been to Iran, in Masjid Jamkaran, just outside of the city of Qum. In Masjid Jamkaran, they used to, I don't see it anymore. I think they've just done some renovations in that some time ago. But there used to be on the wall of Masjid Jamkaran this hadith of the 12th Imam. This hadith of the 12th Imam that is narrated in Bihar al-Anwar, that the same way, he says that these ulama, who are the muhaddithun, the narrators of the hadith, who have given up their desires, who have dedicated their life for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in narrating our traditions, they are an authority above you, and I am an authority above them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is an authority over me. The Imam left the chair occupied to make sure, and the Imam basically took the guarantee that there will be some maraja and ulama who will be serving, who will be sincere in this service of Islam to the Islam and Ahlul Bayt, while I am in occultation, while I am physically not in front of you. The same way the Prophet left Ali ibn Abi Talib, the Imam left the maraja. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'm going to come back to this point in just a couple of minutes. If you can do a Control S. You know what this is, right? Control S ka matlab kya hai? Safe. So just hang on to this thought for a moment, okay? We're going to come back to this. And so what does that mean? Why is it important? Okay, now let's go. I had mentioned in yesterday's discussion, because what we had talked about when we had said that the Imam had talked about Aqeedah wal Jihad, the Aqeedah is not physically visible. The Iman that's inside us is not visible. It is spiritual. And the Jihad is the physical.
The whole foundation of Islam is to remind us that our existence on this world is composed of two parts. One is the physical part, that we have got this body that we are living in this world that we are, the temporal world. And one is something perhaps more powerful, more significant, and that is the spirit that is within us. The ruh and the jism. The ruh, the spirit and the body goes together. And so when you look at history at the beginning, who was the very first man Allah Ta'ala created? First man. You all remember, right? I am the person who makes you think, talk, and take part in the majlis. Because if I don't get you involved, you will fall asleep just like I'm about to fall asleep. Aapne jawab de diya, yes? Adam. Hazrat Adam was the first creation. Now, everyone knows that, right? There's no shak in that, right? I get worried when people say Adam. Please say it with yaqeen. Adam alayhi salam. Don't ask me, I'm asking you. Sayyida. Anwar sahab, maaf kijiye, main logo ko bedar kar raha hu. Keeping it, trying to. May Allah bless you. Jazakallah Sayyid. Ashkurkum. Jazakallah. Jazakallah. Salli ala. Hazrat Adam was the first one. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that Allah Ta'ala told the malaika, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةَ أَسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ. Allah Ta'ala gave an order to all the malaika, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ أَسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ. Do sajda to Adam. Now just a minute. Was it that Allah Ta'ala created Adam right away, the body of Adam? Adam was there and he ordered the sajda. Was that the case? MashaAllah, there was a bit of yaqeen in that. Exactly. If you look at the history, and Dr. Yasin al-Juburi in his The Concept of God talks about the creation of Adam and on, and it goes into a lot of beautiful depth. It is narrated in many of the hadiths that the body of Adam was there. Some say for 70 years, some say for 700 years the body was there. The malaika would pass by, they would see Adam, they would say, MashaAllah, MashaAllah, and walk by. There was that. In those 70 or 700 years, whichever the riwayah says, Jazakallah, may Allah bless you, inshallah. In those 70 or 700 years, there was no sajda. The body was there. The order hadn't come. And I'll tell you one thing. Shall I tell you a secret? Aapki ijazat hai na? Okay. If Allah Ta'ala would have made the order of sajda at that time, everybody would have done it. There would have been no illa. وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ أَسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ illa, illa, this guy had not done it. But if that body of Adam was the only thing Allah had created and told the malaika and told everybody else, nobody would have done disobedience to Allah. The test came about when Allah Ta'ala then announces after all those years that I will put my spirit in Adam. I will put the ruh in Adam. Adam will then have life, and then Allah Ta'ala gave the order of the sajda. So without the ruh, if for example, don't get petrified. If I was to die right now, my soul came out, I fell down, Sayyidina Mahmud, I'm the one who invited him, now look what happened. What will you say? Okay, now the body of brother Shafiq is here. The body of Shafiq is here. We better let his family know. We better make the arrangements of ghusl. We have to do the mayyat. I saw that the ghusl is in progress. Is there somebody in there right now? No. Oh, okay, so it's just saying that. Okay, I got scared when I went to do wudu. I said, is there a ghusl in progress? I said, okay, maybe mine might be next. And he will say, okay, we have to give brother Shafiq's body a ghusl mayyat. The body is different. What happened? If I was to die right here in front of you, what would be the difference between 5 minutes before and 5 minutes later? You will say the ruh came out. The ruh came out. Did any of you see the ruh coming out? Where did it go? Allahu Akbar. When somebody came to my Mawla Ali ibn Abi Talib and he says, Ya Ali, we have been told and we have read that after we die we will meet you. Will that apply to everybody? Imam says, yes, it will apply to everybody. How can that be? Mahada, how can this be? Imam says, what is maut? And he replies, maut is the removal of the ruh. Imam reminds them from Surah Bani Israel, when the people used to ask, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. The people are asking you, O Muhammad, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. They are asking you, what is ruh? Reply to them that the ruh is the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the order of Allah. Imam Ali says, if the ruh is the amr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa ana ulil amr, I am the authority over the amr of Allah. The ruh is the powerful part of the human being. That is what makes our existence. Yesterday we were talking about the engine of the car. You remember that, Anna? We didn't forget, right? So because we have to move forward from there. And my time is very limited, and I understand you've had a whole week of work and things. I know you're busy, and inshallah, so am I, hopefully. Because we have to prepare everything from home anyways. And so what we see is that the ruh is the whole essence of the human existence. And so that ruh becomes the powerful part. And this is what Imam was reminding us. That the ruh is the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I am the authority on the order of Allah. Ulil Amr is there. Now this ruh needs to be analyzed, because it is, Imam Ali says, Man arafa rabbahu faqad arafa nafsahu faqad arafa rabbahu. Whoever knows his soul knows his Allah. Because the soul is so powerful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is much more powerful. He is the creator of the ruh. The ruh cannot be seen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be seen with these physical eyes. Yesterday you saw the eyes have got power. They can see the whole world. They can see so much. Lately if you see, they've been saying that Mars is very close to us. If you look at night, mashallah, it is very close to us. It is after the moon, the brightest object in the sky. Mashallah, we look at that and see, wow, I can see thousands and millions of miles away. That's how powerful it is. And so these eyes have the power, but they cannot see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Physically, we cannot see Allah. So the ruh is the same. It cannot be physically seen, the eyes. But is there anybody who can deny it? Is there anybody who can deny the existence of the ruh? People have denied Allah. People have denied the existence of God. They say God doesn't exist. There's God exists. There's this, that, and the other. Imagine for a moment, if I was to come in here into Al-Mahdi Al-Muntazar, and I tell Sayyid Anwar Sahab, "Ke bhai, you know what? I have stopped believing in Wi-Fi signal." He'll look at me and say, "Bhai, you think this drive from Kitchener to London is getting to your head, eh?" What do you mean? He says, Wi-Fi exists. I said, I have not seen a single Wi-Fi signal. Yes, you cannot see it, but if you deny it, the problem is yours. You are denying it. It is your fallacy. The signal will be there whether you believe in it or not. But that is all I'm going to say. Allah will exist whether you believe in Him or not. It is your fallacy for not believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ruh exists. Jazakallah. 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 So the ruh has been constantly debated, discussed. How powerful is it? It can go so many places, and it goes through so many transformations. You cannot imagine and appreciate what this ruh does. There's a hadith that says, "An-nawm ukhtul maut." The sleep is the sister of death. Every night when you go to sleep, what happens? Your ruh has gone away to another dimension, to another place. And when your alarm is about to ring, the ruh comes back and wakes you up and says, "Hi, it's time for salat, it's time for work, it's time." Imagine for a moment, Allahu Akbar, if some malfunction took place. I was just mentioning in another majlis a few days ago. I said, have you appreciated your human body? Those who are doctors will be able to appreciate this much better than you and I might understand and appreciate. That if you were to know how many kilometers of veins, arteries, and capillaries we have in the human body, do you know how much it is, Damar? I was confused. I said that I need to ask Ayatollah Al-Uzma Google. Because more people do taqleed of Ayatollah Google than any marriage that I know of. They ask more questions to Hazrat Google than anybody else. I might be wrong, Allahu Alam. But anyways, so I asked. And I saw, they told me, he replied me, or is it, Google is a he or a she? I don't know. It's a she. Allahu Akbar. You just don't want to get in trouble from the other side. One salawat of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, please. And the reply came that in the body there is 60,000 miles or 100,000 kilometers of arteries, veins, capillaries in the human body. And I'm looking at myself and I'm hitting my head that I have 4 wires by my bedside, 4 wires, chargers, one for my laptop, one for my phone, one for my child's phone, one for my wife's phone, and for all these tablets. And those 4 wires, every night I have to untangle them. Ya Rabbul Izzati wal Jalal, oh my Allah, how can I explain your greatness? How can I understand your subhaniyat? That you have given 100,000 kilometers in this body, nothing gets tangled up, and my 4 wires cannot be staying alone. Allahu Akbar. Ya Rasulullah. Ya Ali. Ya Allah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Just looking at the human body and you will right away believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. And we need to move forward, inshallah. So this ruh has got certain powers. Plato talks about 3 divisions of the spirit, of the soul. He talks about 3. Our ulama, Ayatollah Muhammad Mahdi al-Naraki, he actually says that based on the hadith of the Imams, he says that there are 4 faculties in the soul, not 3. He talks about 4 powers in the soul. And inshallah, this is the topic that I will conclude with. He says that there are 4 things, 4 division, departments, faculties in the spirit, in the soul. And each of them have got 2 aspects. One will take you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One will take you away from Allah. So if you do one thing, it'll take you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you do the opposite, it'll take you away from Allah. The first is known as quwwate aqaliyah, the power of the intellect. I'll give you all 4 of them and then we'll just go into a little bit of very, very brief discussion. Aapki ijazat hai na? Inshallah, I have a few minutes, inshallah. I will try not to take too much time. I know that on the mimbar it becomes very tempting to just go on, but inshallah I will keep in mind may Allah bless you. I'll keep in time your tiredness as well. Khair. Quwwat aqaliyah, the power of the intellect, the intelligence power. The second is known as quwwat ghadabiyah, the power of anger. Some have, in my opinion, it's a misinterpretation. Some have said it's emotion. Ghadabiyya in Arabic terminology refers to anger, this emotion that is more of towards the anger. The third is known as quwwat shahwiyya, the power of desire. And the fourth is known as quwwat wahmiyya, the power of the imagination. And so for my Urdu speaking sisters and brothers, the word wahm in Arabic has a very different meaning than the word wahm in Urdu. In Urdu, wahm means hallucinations or psychological negative implications. In Arabic, wahm actually means imagination. So I'll explain what that refers to in our discussion here. So the first is quwwat aqaliyah. If the spirit didn't have the quwwat of aqaliyah, engineers would not know how to build bridges, highways, overpasses, underpasses, buildings, the structures, how to make things firm, how to make things proper. This is all quwwat aqaliyah. It can be used for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to better the man's life. And if it's used wrongly, this quwwat aqaliyah then led to the creation of weapons of mass destruction, bombs, and all these destructive things. Quwwat aqaliyah. You use your brain for the sake of Allah. You make bridges, you make houses, you make shelters, you make these structures. You do accounting, you do legal assistance. All that is quwwat aqaliyah if it's used in the right way. Using it in the wrong way, you create bombs, you create messes, you create weapons, and tanks and guns and all these things that we see around us that are causing destruction. That is the misuse of quwwat aqaliyah. We're using our intelligence not for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of humanity, but away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quwwat ghadabiyah, the quwwat of anger. Why do we have it? What is it? What does it do? And we know that Allah Ta'ala has given it to us. But there's a hadith of our 11th Imam Hassan ibn Ali al-Askari alayhi salatu wasalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. In which Imam al-Askari has said that al-ghadabu miftah kulli shar. Ghadab, anger, is the key to all evils. And Shaitan has been quoted as saying, he was telling Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, he told Prophet Nuh, when a believer is angry, that believer is like a ball would be to a kid. I can do whatever I want with him. Because the minute that believer is in temper, he's temperamental, he's angry, he's upset at somebody, he's angry at somebody, he will do what? Shaitan says, he's like a ball with me. I can kick him around, I can play him around, I can throw him against the wall. He's completely mine the way a ball is in the hands of him. Because then what he'll do, if I'm angry at you, I will not only use bad language, I will swear at you, I'll go and do your ghibat, I will talk and I'll curse your uncle's grandfather's friend, I will do this, that and the other, and I will start doing all kinds of things that are completely haram. Then the question arises, Allah, you have given us a ghadab. Why have you given us a ghadab then? The reason is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us ghadab so that when we see something wrong, we will act. When we see something wrong, we will get angry. When we see the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being disobeyed, we will act. When we see dhulm and oppression, our anger should get the better of us at that time, not the anger getting against our children or our spouses and our family members. Sometimes ghazab gets used against ulama. I have never heard people be so emotional as on the 29th of Ramadan. They'll use their entire ghadab against the Maraj and the ulama. I want Eid tomorrow. Why is it the 30th of Ramadan? Bas. This Marja doesn't know what he's talking about. This Ayatollah doesn't know what he's talking about. This and that. And all that ghadab that Allah gave us to use against shaitan, we use against Imam Zamana. That's what we do. We use the ghadab, we misuse the ghadab against what? Why is tomorrow? Why is this? Oh, there should be unity and there should be this. And what have we done? We have completely taken it and we are the ball now in shaitan's hand. In shaitan's. Why? Because we've completely taken what Allah has given us and we should be using it against shaitan and we're using it against each other. We're using it against our maraja and our ulama. And this is something that when we look at our own lives, do we get angry when we see haram around us? When we see same gender relationships being, acceptable. Now, when we look at our children, our youngsters, and even ourselves, MYOB. Huh? You know what MYOB is, right? Mind your own business. That is what the whole society is telling us. Let him do his guna. Let him do his sins. Let him mind your own business. Don't you have a mortgage to worry about? Don't you have a car loan to worry about? Don't you have credit card debts? Why are you worrying about what haram is going on in the society? Worry about yourself. Don't worry. Be oblivious to everything else. So that power that we have that should be used against haram, that should at least be used to speak out or at least feel that this is haram, this is wrong, we have been told to mind our own business and suppress that. See what is happening. And when halal becomes haram, haram becomes halal, haram becomes acceptable, halal becomes, uncomfortable, then shaitan is happy. I have succeeded. I have won. Because that quwwat al-ghadabiyya that you have inside you, your ruh as God, you've used it for shaitan, not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When was the last time we were upset about the haram that happens in our society? When was the last time we were angry that why is this happening? And sometimes I get shocking questions and messages. It was interesting enough that somebody wants to know, when Canada legalized this marijuana and all that. And I had people asking, and when I was talking with other scholars and other ulama as well, I said, is this just happening in Kitchener, Waterloo, and this part of Ontario? Is this something? And they were all laughing. They said, no, we've also had this question. People were phoning and asking, now that Canada has legalized it, is it also jaiz in Islam? Now that drugs are okay in Canada, is okay halal in Islam. Same gender marriages were approved in Canada in the late 2000s. Is it okay in Islam as well? Allahu Akbar. And I thought this was a joke. I thought this person questioning me was just joking with me. And when I realized that they were serious, I said 80 years ago Canada legalized alcohol. Does that mean Islam also has... You're forgetting that Islam is not subservient to the Western society. The world has to be subservient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the differentiation between having a ruh and an aqidah that Imam Hussein talks about and the one that is against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are we saying? What is happening to us? We are going with the flow. We are going with the tide, wherever the tide is going. And this is why the Prophet said that when you see the whole world going in one direction and you see Ali ibn Abi Talib in the other direction, forget about what the world is going. See where Ali ibn Abi Talib is, because al-haqqu ma aliyun wa aliyun ma al-haq. And if we are following Ali, we have to see where our Mawla would be. Where would our Mawla be on this? Where did my Imam use his quwwat-e-ghadabiyah? Imam means a leader. Ma'mum means follower. Are we following our Imam or are we following the other side? Would our Imam be happy with what's happening? Or would our Imam be angry with it? How did the Imam fight in Badr, Khaybar, Uhud, Khandaq? And that same Ali would go into the masjid and say, Allahumma arham du'fa badan. Oh Allah, have mercy on my body. Oh Allah, and the Imam would be heard crying the way a mother cries for her child. The quwwat-e-ghadabiyah is there, the quwwat-e-ghadabiyah is here in both instances. How did the Imam react? The problem is we have taken it the other way around. We have used this against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we have left our Mawla in the process. This is what quwwat-e-ghadabiyah is. Quwwat-e-shahwiyah, the third power that I was going to talk about. Desire. Allah Ta'ala gave us desire because if that quwwat-e-shahwiyah wasn't there, the desire to get married, the desire to love and care about the opposite gender wouldn't be there. And if that halal relationship was not there, the human race would have ended. Allah gave us that so that the human race continues. When you use it for haram, when you use it for zina, what does Allah say? وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. Be careful of adultery. Stay away from adultery. These haram, illicit, illegitimate relationships. This is an evil path. It is the way of shaitan. وَسَاءَ سَبِيلًا. It's an evil way. So you can have both. You can say if you want to go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by marrying and having a halal relationship. You know, when I sometimes have discussions with many members of my interfaith council, we have an interfaith council in Kitchener. And oftentimes we discuss topics. Every month we meet. We sit down on a Thursday, once a month, and we talk about issues that are facing our communities and that. And one of the other religious leaders, he was saying that, we don't believe in marriage. You know, we don't agree with marriage. We have a celibate lifestyle. And I said, why? He said, because when you marry, you're taking love away from God and you're putting it to your spouse. The husband loves his wife, so now he's loving God less. The wife loves her husband, she's loving God less. The parents love their children, the children love their parents. And they're diverting all this away from God, this love away from God. And I smiled and I said that our Prophet, our Islam, our faith, our foundation is telling us that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us an important injunction, then when we are loving our spouse, in the process we are actually loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are loving God. When a parent loves his children, or the children love their parents, or the parents look lovingly to the children look lovingly towards their parents, they are actually loving God in the process. They're not diverting love away from God, they are enhancing their love towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is quwwat-e-shahwiyah. It's there for a reason, not for using it with the same gender and all that. I remember I had made a presentation at one of the school boards in Western Canada, and I said that, look, my only point I'm going to leave you with after I had made a 15-minute or almost a 10 or 12-minute presentation, in the end I told them, I said, if God agreed to, if God allowed this thing, then He would not have created Adam and Eve, He would have created Adam and Steve. There is something that is naturally needing to be obeyed. We are not saying that we're going to discriminate against anybody. We're not saying that we discriminate or we'll abuse anybody or we'll hurt anybody. No. What we're saying is that there are certain deeds and actions that Islam allows and accepts. And there are certain things Islam distances itself from. And when there is something haram, we must feel the anger and the pain in our hearts. Because the minute we don't feel that pain, the minute we don't feel this amr bil ma'roof, this desire to do good and to encourage others to do good, to refrain from haram and encourage each other to refrain from haram, if we stop doing that, we have stopped the message of Imam Hussein. Because when Imam was leaving Medina Munawwara, he wrote in his letter that what I am leaving for is not for any kingdom, not for any world. I am leaving because the ummah of my grandfather has left amr bil ma'roof and has left nahy anil munkar. They don't encourage each other to do good. They don't refrain each other from doing evil. That's why we bear witness. Ashhadu anna qad aqamta as-salata wa atayta az-zakata wa amarta bil ma'roof wa nahayta al-munkar. We are bearing witness, O Imam, O our Mawla. You upheld the prayer. You upheld the zakat. You ensured amr bil ma'roof did not die and nahy anil munkar stayed alive. We are bearing witness that. That was the essence of Mawla's message. Not MYOB, but rather take a stand. Don't be apathetic. Don't stay quiet. No. The last one that we're talking about tonight in the discussion is the quwwata wahmiya, the imagination, the power of imagination. Imagine for a moment, if we didn't have this quwwata wahmiya, the airplane would have never been discovered. The train and the car, the automobile would never done, because people were tired of going on horse and donkey and camel. And they saw that, they saw the birds flying hundreds of years, thousands of years. People saw the birds flying and were wishing, we wish we could fly. Quwwata wahmiya said, okay, let us do this. And what happened is that we got hijacked. The Western world hijacked us. If you've heard of, if you ask an average student, if you ask an average youngster, university, college student, high school student, who discovered America? What will they say? Columbus. Who discovered the airplane? The Wright brothers. It's almost like, the answer comes, Baba, listen, Columbus himself was lost. He thought he was in India. The natives and the aborigines were already living there for thousands of years. The guy was lost and he is now called the discoverer of America. Allahu Akbar. If I was to come and say to Nawab Bhai, said, guess what? I discovered Middlesex County. He'll say, okay, boy, this drive is getting to you. Bhai, be careful. Maybe you should stay over the night. Maybe you should come to our house and stay the night here. Don't drive back because something is happening in this place has been discovered hundreds of years ago. People have been living here. My question is the same, that the airplane was not discovered by the Wright brothers. You've heard of Abbas ibn Firnas? Baghdad airport is named after him. And so the Muslims were the first ones to see how and determine and try to fly. Find, the poor guy, he hurt himself a couple of times, but he was the first one to try it and see how the flapping of wings with a large type of a wing, instead of just the hands that we have, would try and get us from point A to point B in an aerodynamic matter. This was your history, mashallah. This was one of the contributions of Islam. Just like in medical sciences, the numerology, these were all gifts of Islam. The algebra and the alchemy were gifts of Islam to the Western world, to the rest of the world. But what happens? We get hijacked and we don't know what's going on and we lose our own history and our own pride. Quwwata wahmiya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us that so that we will be imagining how to, I'm sure it was some lady who was tired of washing dishes, and her quwwata wahmiya probably instigated her husband say, invent the dishwasher. You see? So this is quwwata wahmiya. And yet, people use it to destroy mankind. The same thing, you create destructive drones, you kill individuals with those same weapons that you wanted to fly like the birds, now you're using them against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're using them to drop bombs. You're using them to destroy humanity. This is the insaniyat that we were talking about yesterday. This was the insaniyat that Abu Abdullah was reminding us of. Innal hayati aqidatu wal jihad. One part is seen, one part is not seen. It is inside us. And this was the message that the Imam left us with. Yesterday you heard how the difficult time it was coming from Sham towards Karbala. The Ahlul Bayt had a choice to go straight back to Medina. They had a choice to go back to Medina, but the Ahlul Bayt said that no, we want to go to Karbala and we want to say salam to our Mawla. They had reached Karbala. Some narrators, some historians say for 3 days they stayed in Karbala Mu'alla. They did the ziyarat of Imam Hussein. They were sitting with the Shuhada. They were there in those plains and remembering what had transpired, what had happened on the 10th of Ashura, on the 10th of Muharram, on the day of Ashura. They must have been remembering. And finally, according to some narrators, after 3 days, Imam Zainul Abidin was thinking that if I leave them here for much longer, it might happen that one of the ladies might pass away. ऐसा ना हो कि किसी कोई और दम तोड़ देवे मैदान करबला में. Imam Zainul Abidin says, Pupi Zainab, my aunt Zainab, we must now get ready to go back to Medina. And so the caravan was getting ready. As they went to Rabab and said, Lady Rabab, we have to now get ready to go to Medina. Rabab says, why would I go to Medina? Everything I have is here. Kaise Medine jao? Sab kuch to hai yahan. Nasir Zaidi mentions this in his poetry. How can I go to Medina when everything is there? Finally, Imam Zainul Abidin says, my mother, Rabab, we have to get going. We have to go back home. Rabab says, what will be in my home when I go there? My Mawla is lying here. My Ali Asghar is here. My Sakina is in When the caravan starts going towards Medina, some kilometers before reaching Medina, Bashir goes and announces that the caravan of Imam Hussein is coming back into Medina. Hussein ka loota hua karava qafila aa raha hai. Hussein ko mara gaya hai, Hussein ko shaheed kiya gaya. When Bashir announces this, a young boy is with his grandmother. When he hears this announcement, he leaves the hand of his grandmother. He runs towards Bashir and says, "What did you announce? What did you announce?" And Bashir says, "Qutil al-Husayn bi Karbala," that Hussein has been martyred on the plains of Karbala. This young boy tells Bashir, ये नन्हा बच्चा Bashir से कहता है, झूठ बोल रहे हो, सच बात नहीं बता रहे हो, कैसे हुसैन मारे गए, कैसे हुसैन शहीद हो गए, how can Imam Hussein be killed? You're not telling the truth. Bashir says, I am telling you the truth. And the young boy says, my father Abbas was with him. फजल ने कहा, मेरा बाबा अब्बास तो साथ में थे, किसी की जरूरत नहीं है कि मेरे चचा हुसैन को. And Bashir tells the young boy Fadl, he says, no, your father was killed first. Your father sacrificed his 2 arms. There was a valiant battle that he had fought. Shujaat Ali दिखाकर दोनों बाजू कलम करके कुर्बान कर दिया. आपके बाबा को भी शहीद किया गया था जब तक अब्बास हयात थे. कोई सी की जरूरत न पड़ी कि हुसैन को चूस. When the caravan reaches into Medina, Janabe Zainab, the ladies want to give condolences. The men want to give condolences to Sayyid Sajjad. Hazrat Zainab's first job was what? She takes Imam Hussein's shirt, the blood-soaked shirt. She goes to Qabr Rasul. Nana Jan, aapke Hussein mare gaye. Nana Jan Hussein ka pursa dene ke liye she tells her grandfather, "Oh my Nana, my grandfather, your Hussein was kept thirsty and hungry for 3 days. Our chadars were taken. The children were slapped and beaten. Sakina is lying in Sham. Ya Mola, Ya Nana. Imam Zainul Abidin was whipped and beaten. Azadaran Imam, तारीख ने मुझे नहीं बताया, लेकिन मेरा दिल ये कहता है कि कब्र रसूल ज़लज़ला आए. रब कब्र रसूल से जवाब आया, ज़ैनब अब मेरे अमनो मान में आ जाओ. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Oh Allah, accept this ibadat from us. Ya Allah, give us the tawfiq and the ability to act on the teachings of Mawla Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, the Ahlul Bayt, the Quran Majid. Ya Allah, our sins, forgive them bihaqqi hadha yawm al-Arbaeen wa hadha shahr al-Safar. Ya Allah, protect our ulama, our maraja, our mujtahideen who are serving while the Imam is in occultation. Grant them long and healthy life in the service of Islam and the Ahlul Bayt. The marhumin who have left us, Ya Allah, grant them maghfirat. When we leave this world, protect us from the difficulties of maut and the difficulties in the qabr. Ya Allah, those who are ill, grant them shifa kamila from their illnesses in our community, in our family, in our friends, amongst those in the mu'mineen. Grant them shifa kamila, Ya Allah. We ask you to hasten the return of Imam al-Hujjah, Imam al-Qaim. Make us amongst the ashab and the ansar of the Imam. Let us see Zamana al-Dhuhur with our own eyes. Let us be with the Imam till the end of our lives. If I can please request the mu'mineen to recite 5 times Al-Muhibbil, as Sayyidina Arbaeen mentioned yesterday, for our dear brother Arif, for brother Sajjad Chewalwala from the Windsor, who was once in Windsor, for those who are suffering, those who are ill, whether it is COVID, whether it is cancer, whether it is any illness, for Allah Ta'ala to give them shifa kamila. Oh Allah, for the sake of, and for our hajat to be accepted, for the safety of Imam Zamana, for the safety and the security of the mu'mineen in Pakistan, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Lebanon, in Palestine, in Kashmir, in Nigeria, in Bahrain, in Yemen, in Syria, in Rohingya, wherever there is suffering, Ya Allah, for all of them, all together, sab milke 5 martaba. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. اللهم صل على محمد. الفاتحة للأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والعلماء والشهداء. الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. ماتم حسين. يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.